The alleged assault of a 9-year-old boy during a hurling blitz has sent ripples through the GAA community.
Here to discuss this and the impact sideline aggression is having on children is Shane Stapleton from OurGame.ie, and from the Irish Times we've got Jen Hogan as well. Good morning to you both. Jen, we'll be with you in just 1 minute, but Shane, if you could take us through this alleged incident and what's alleged to have happened.
Yeah, as you said, alleged is the key word here. So in Dr. Morris Park in Thurles over the weekend, there was an underage blitz, and Gardaí and Munster GAA are investigating an incident whereby an adult is supposed to have come in off the sideline and grabbed an under-9 player by the throat. And as you said, it's alleged, but it's pretty ghastly stuff, and assuming that there is a conviction on the basis of that, it's a really sad state of affairs that this would happen at an underage game where essentially it's supposed to be about fun.
Yeah, exactly. And a blitz is particularly all about fun. But we're seeing a lot of this in the GAA at the minute. There's a lot more incidents, and particularly around referees. Is this a problem? Is this getting worse in the GAA, or has it just been highlighted more?
Well, I'd say it definitely feels like it's getting worse because the amount of coverage is across the board. We've more media than we've ever had before, and the amount of video clips that we've seen. I mean, last year it looked like a bit of a riot on the sideline at a Wicklow underage game. We saw incidents with people coming in off the sideline on leash. We've seen a 96-week ban recently issued by Wexford GAA. We've seen games abandoned in Mayo underage and also in Kerry. So that's obviously very terrible stuff. But referee abuse has always existed. Now, coming in and alleged assaults of 9-year-old children, that feels like a different level altogether.
It really does, because I know that we sit there. We were discussing this morning, and you're like, when you were watching GAA, you've seen things.
And a dad came and attacked a fellow with the Lions flag. Do you know what I mean? But back then, there was no social media, and things got passed off because I think his son was getting the head boxed off him by another player. So, it's good that these social media clips are coming out there, and it's good that it's been highlighted and it's been stamped out, but I don't think this is anything new, personally.
But it's just, isn't this meant to be fun up to a certain level? Like, are we meant to be having 7- and 8-year-olds now who are thinking that they are inter-county players? Is this the level we're expecting from under-9, Shane?
I don't think we are, but we do. There are parents out there who think that their little Johnny or Sally, is out to win the World Cup and they're living vicariously through them. And there are some parents who take it over the line. But GAA is a microcosm of society. If this is happening in GAA, it's happening elsewhere too. If you look at what happened in England earlier this month, so the FA, they announced that 380 bans happened because of match abuse towards referees, both physical and verbal, in the previous year. 380 bans, that's incredible. And in the Merseyside Youth Football League, in protest at all of this happening, there was a round of fixtures that were called off for an entire weekend. That was early in October. So this isn't just a problem in GAA. I'd imagine it's happening in other sports as well. It's certainly happening in underage soccer as well. Maybe not that exact type of incident.
Yeah.
But this is happening.
And parents and everybody's getting so invested in it as well. I think we should bring in Jen Hogan here at the minute. Jen, you wrote an article on this last week and spoke to a lot of parents whose children are... the parents are probably thinking that they want to get their kids out of this sport because of what they're seeing on the sidelines with some of the violence, but also sometimes just not even being picked. Where's the fun gone in sport?
Yeah, exclusion seems to become a big problem in children's sport. This idea of kids not being considered good enough and left sitting on the sidelines, and does seem to be happening across the board. I am going to have to admit, we had so many people get in touch with us both before the piece went out and after the piece went out, and the GAA came up repeatedly here, a kind of a practice of bringing younger children up and playing them ahead of actual age children because it was so important to win the match. So there's an awful lot of kids really distressed, a lot of parents really upset, not sure how to help their children, because somehow instead of fun and instead of keeping children engaged and actively involved in sport, winning, it's all become about winning, even at under 12 level.
Jen, I'm just wondering, because I remember certainly when I was playing back in the day, there was, and I'm talking, under 10s and everything, it was the first team, second team, third team, fourth team, and you were put on according to your ability. And it wasn't a state of affairs where it was like X Factor and everyone gets a medal and everyone's great. There's always been a competitive nature to sport, and do you not think it's important for that to be instilled in children? You don't just get a medal because you take part.
Well, I think participation is really important. But I mean, I'm a huge fan of competitive sports, and it is, I think children want to win. Everybody wants to win, but I think we've lost sight of what success looks like. And ideally, we would have as many involved in sport for as long as possible. If you have a situation where children can't even get to play, where they're left on the sidelines, where their feelings of, where their self-worth is destroyed, their confidence is destroyed, they're likely to walk away from it. You're knocking down children at a very young age. They're going to miss out on the long-term, lifelong benefits of sport. So competition is important, but children are, they do want to win. Adults want to win. People want to win, but winning at all costs, that's a different story altogether.
So what sort of examples of stories did you hear from some of the parents, Jen?
So we had, one of the main stories that was featured was the parents of an under 12-year-old player who had tugged out and kitted out for his match, and was left on the sidelines for the entirety. And he was given a medal because the team all got a medal, but he ended up vomiting all night because he was so stressed about going into school on the Monday, knowing that he never got a chance to play. But he went back and he tried again, and the same sort of thing happened. We had parents get in touch to say that they had this idea of turning up for the match, turning up the training, always standing there. But when push came to shove, younger players being brought up from other teams, from younger teams, and being played ahead of the players that were actually on the pitch, an exercise, I suppose, in humiliation really for young children. And then there were parents of children with additional needs, perhaps in mainstream education, who were never, maybe had coordination difficulty. I'll use dyspraxia, for example, weren't ever going to perhaps be starting off anyway as capable on the pitch as their peers, and not even getting a chance because winning was more important than inclusion. Inclusion seems to be this kind of buzzword, but we're not necessarily seeing it happen on the pitch. And for every child to get involved and every child to have a chance, every child, they need a chance to play. I mean, that's really important. And not tokenism, actually get a chance to play. I mean, Shane Smith, who spoke to me for it, is a sports psychologist, and his argument was that every child should have an equal amount of time on the pitch and no child should always be the sub. And there's huge merit in that because it's a team sport and every child needs to get that chance to play and feel valued and feel part of a team.
I think something like rolling substitutions or...
There's a lot to be said for that because sport is where inclusion happens. It's where you're meant to learn some social skills when it comes to sport, especially when it's a team sport. It's not an individual sport. So is a level of competitiveness, like this under-9s, it's kind of blowing my mind that an adult would go on and do this because he was angry at a blitz.
That level, right? So when you're having it at that age group, I think every player should be given an opportunity to play. Like when I was a young fella, at times I was left on the bench, and at times
me too.
People younger than me were playing. So, so that's tough. And every kid up to a certain age level, I'm not going to decide what the age level is here live on TV, but they should be guaranteed a certain amount of game time and should start the next game, that you don't start a certain amount of games on the bench. But there's also a lot of resilience that you learn in sport. Because, you don't win at life all the time automatically, and someone doesn't always hand you, the keys to a house or the keys to a car or a good job or all this kind of stuff. And I would talk to teachers, most of my siblings are all teachers, and they would say that maybe that the resilience levels isn't there in kids the way it used to be anymore. And at least you learn some of the hard knocks of life in sport. It's not the PC answer. I'd love to be Mr. Brightside and say we should all, get our perfect game time and we should all succeed and all that kind of stuff. But there are hard lessons of life learned in sport. And I think in too many other areas you don't learn them. That doesn't make any of the horrible stuff we talked about okay.
Yeah.
But you do have to learn some hard lessons in life somewhere. I think sport, which teaches that bit of resilience, that teaches that bit of teamwork, there's so much good about the GAA that I certainly wouldn't be one for just hammering them. But of course, I think across the board, we need to look at measures that will very practically deal with this. I see some clubs doing club conduct workshops. And this happened in Wexford GAA after what happened with those 96-week bans.
Yeah.
Should we look at silent sidelines, especially for underage?
Yeah.
I've also suggested after the referee abuse, maybe referees should take it upon themselves to wear GoPros, that they have that option. So at least if someone comes in off the sideline and you're a person stupid enough to come in and think about assaulting a referee verbally or otherwise, it's caught on camera. It's a deterrent.
Yeah.
It's something practical. It won't solve everything. But why not have it? What's the downside?
Well, I mean, the silent sidelines, there is going to have to be something brought in by the GAA. There's something going to have to be brought in. We're seeing with soccer teams as well. And listen, I think it's going to be something that's really interesting because I could see even something that you said, Jen was kind of shaking her head there, that, this inclusion in kids, it's a really tricky one because coaches are there giving up their spare time. They're there and they're trying to do their best.
Why was Jen shaking her head? What was wrong, Jen?
Jen shaking her head. That's not how resilience works. You do not build up children's resilience by knocking them down, destroying their self-worth and their sense of self-esteem. Resilience works by building children up so they can cope with the difficult things that come to them in life. And knocking them down like this and turning them off sport, all you're doing is removing them from sport altogether, which is what has happened in a lot of the cases, because exclusion got so bad that the parents took their children out of sport altogether for their own mental health.
But Shane, you're not saying that.
That's not building resilience.
No, I don't
That's
think...
not how resilience works.
But you're not saying that you exclude them once.
No, and if Jen is suggesting I am that's hijacking my point and twisting it a little bit, that's certainly not what I said. But I'm saying within sport, you do learn the lessons of life. For example, you don't always win at everything. That's very separate to what I also said, which is up to a certain age level, players certainly should get guaranteed amount of game time.
Absolutely. Listen, and we'd love to hear from people at home this 0896 111 111. I mean, it's such a big topic because sport does so much good. And as you say, you learn to win graciously and lose graciously, but also where's that fine balance of giving everybody a chance? And really comes down to kind of what's winning for a club? Is it going and lifting a trophy at the weekend?
Yeah.
Or is it actually having more players coming into the club every week
People
playing
who want
up
to be
until
there and
under
happy.
18s?
Yeah, absolutely.
Listen, Shane Stapleton, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and Jen Hogan, of course, journalist with the Irish Times.
Thank you both so much. But a great to have you in studio. I love when that happens over Skype. It's better when they're beside each other.
But it's something that I'm really torn on because I feel I saw both sides of growing up.